I'm Aleiya. I've been doing cake decorating and baking since 2019. I got started by watching Netflix shows. And I've been interning at the Cake Lady for 2 years now, and hopefully this year I'll get a job there. And I'm gonna level the cake, show you guys how to do that. So you want to make sure your knife is level and just cut around. Until your cake is as level as you want it to be. I'm gonna make my cake that level. So now to frost it, you're gonna wanna fill your bag. When I fill my bags, I fold it over and open up the bottom, and I just basically scoop it in there. When you cut a hole in the bottom, you don't want to cut it too big so that there's so much frosting coming out of the bottom. But you want to cut it big enough so that enough comes out. And when I do it, I normally start with a border on the outside, and I just go in like that. And I smooth it. When you put the other cake on, you want to make sure the cut side is down so that it gives you less crumbs.
Aleiya, what happens if you don't successfully crumb a cake? Like, have you had that happen to you? Like, or can you recover from that?
You can, with lots of extra frosting. I've had a couple instances where I was frosting and I ripped half of the cake off. Yeah, that was quite a time. It's messy, so.
While you're doing that, do you want to tell us like what are some like tools that you can't live without? What are some things that would make your life would make it a lot harder for you to do this?
Definitely a turntable. And piping bags are definite because you need them for like designs and stuff. Right now it's my airbrush because it gives you a nice shading effect. I'm gonna start my scratch coat. So for that, you don't really need a piping bag. You can just take it right out of the container. I start on the bottom and smooth up. If you're applying fondant, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's just the frosting or buttercream or whatever you're using, you normally put 2 coats on. and get it really smooth.
What did you call this coat?
The scratch coat, or the crumb coat, you can call it that.
So how about your like bought buttercream and frosting versus what you make yourself? Do you have a preference and why?
I like making buttercream myself. It's really messy, but it also you get a lot more out of it, and it can be less expensive. I figured out my favorite type of flavoring to put in frosting. It's a cream cheese flavoring, so it gives it kind of the tanginess, and also it's sweet at the same time.
So you do some special orders and stuff. What are some of the things that people ask of you when they order cakes from you?
I sell a lot of chocolate cakes, and people ask for cupcakes, and just like I've gotten a lot of like 2-tier cakes. I've had one smash cake, and that was pretty fun to make because you get to go a little crazy on the design.
So talk about your process if I was to order a cake from you, like start to finish, what do you have to do to make that happen?
I have to figure out what they want first, and then I have to go through, see if I have the supplies. If I don't, I have to go buy some. And then the first day I would make the cake, I would put it in the freezer, and whenever, like 1-2 days later, I would start decorating. And the decorating, for me, it takes a little while because I'm very intricate with details.
Why do you freeze your cake?
It keeps moisture in, and it makes it so, like, if you have the scratch coat and you put it in the freezer, it can harden it so that you can apply the other one without mixing colors and stuff. I'm gonna smooth this out, and we're gonna cover this cake in fondant.
Can I cover a cake in fondant without putting that base coat on there?
No, it will not stick, and it will just make your cake sink. Do we have rags? Rags? Sitting buckets. So with fondant, you don't want to work it too much or too little, or else it won't, like, shape. I'm going to start with about half.
So this is store-bought fondant. What do you recommend if I'm starting out? Would you recommend making my own fondant?
I would recommend if you're starting out, buy it and like see how it works and stuff.
So it's kind of like Play-Doh a little bit?
Yeah, except sweet. Alexis, could you also grab a rolling pin? So you want to make sure to clean off your table after you cut cakes so that you don't get crumbs in the fondant, because then it won't be as smooth as you would like it to be.
So your fondant should be smooth and glossy.
Yeah.
How about color? Is white the only option I have when I purchase it?
You can purchase it in smaller packages that come in colors, or you could just buy a whole bunch of white and color it on your own with just a normal food dye.
The same gels that you would use in cake decorating.
Yeah, just food dye. So when you roll it out, you want to make sure to turn it so that you get it equal on each side. And you're putting it on a cake. You want it to be relatively thin. Powdered sugar. So if your fondant is sticking like mine is, you can grab some powdered sugar, put it underneath. It's like flour, but it tastes a lot better. When you roll your fondant out, you want it to be about half an inch, maybe a little bit less if you're putting it on a cake, and if you're piping out rolling out flowers and stuff. So I'm going to put a little bit of powdered sugar on the table.
It's basically the equivalent of a pie crust, except you're keeping your sweet instead of your flour. Keeping everything. How did you get started working with fondant? Was it just something that interested you, or do you have a lot of requests for fondant-based cakes?
Most of the cakes I do have fondant, but it's preferably my choice because I find buttercream can be a little bit tricky to work with, especially if you're on a time crunch.
I think fondant scares people, so
It's basically Play-Doh. If you mess up, you could just start over. The most recent cake I made, I covered the top in fondant and I messed it up. So I had to take it off and redo it. And at that time I had cake and frosting all over the fondant, which didn't work so well with the cake and putting it back on and rolling it out smooth. So I started over with that.
but you salvaged the cake.
Yeah. So when you're rolling it out, you want it to be big enough so that it goes around the cake and over it. And so it's a little bit big. Most of the time you can eyeball it, but sometimes you can't. So when you put the fondant on, you want to make sure that the powdered sugar side is down, and you want to kind of drape it over the cake. You take a fondant smoother or your hand. It works the same, but I prefer using this because it's easier. And when you are doing it, you want to kind of open up the sides and push it down. It's okay if you get some creases in there. It's normal. You want to just smooth it out so that it doesn't look lumpy or anything. Sometimes you can freeze the cake before you put fondant on just to keep its shape up. Get it more of like a square shape, but if you want more of a rounded shape, you could do it right away. It's just harder to get a square shape out of that.
Once your cake is all decorated, can you freeze it again, or do you typically not?
You can freeze it. It won't hurt anything. It won't wreck anything. It may crack the fondant, but I've never had that happen. When you get to the end where you have one piece like that, you can grab a knife of any kind and you cut off the ends. Make sure not to get too close to the cake so that it exposes the cake. Getting it to not stick to your hands and making sure that it's not too warm. Because if it is too warm, then it just turns into a big mess. The back is always pretty tricky when you get it. Just smooth out the sides as much as possible. Make sure your thing is up and down so it is not like pressing into the cake. And that's how you cover a cake in fondant. It doesn't have to be perfect. You could just cover that up with decoration and stuff. So I'm going to show some piping. Thank you. I have a rosette tip here. And when you're putting a tip in a bag, you want to cut it a little bit so that the edges of the tip are sticking out, and so they're not covered in the bag. So you're going to fill your bag. I'm going to be showing just a few of the basic like borders and stuff, and then some rosettes. You want to make sure when you fill a new bag, you want to make sure that you get all the air pockets out so that it doesn't mess up your piping. So for rosettes, you're going to want to start in the middle and go out and gently pull. A rosette is one of the most common flowers you will find on a cupcake. You can do them in many sizes. You can do them stacked like this. You can, with any type of tip, you can just create pretty much any type of border. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it can be if you want.
How long did it take you to get comfortable where you would feel like you were proficient and like consistent?
Normally when I do things, it's for the first time, so I just wing it. You can do little stars. This is called the C border. The shell border is this. And yeah, you can do that on cupcakes, normal cakes, pretty much anything. Okay, so going back to fondant, I have a bunch of flower molds here, and basically with these, you just take fondant, put them in there, and punch them out. But if you want to make like bigger flowers, you get like a cookie cutter, and you roll some out. Alexis, do you have the roller? Alexis, do you have the roller? Do you have the roller? Okay, thank you. So you're gonna roll it not too thick. You're gonna roll it about that thick, 1/4 of an inch. And you could take your flower cutter. You could just buy those at Walmart and stuff. And then if you have any of these tools, you can do this. You start in the middle and you go out. And you can kind of create the petal effect.
Would you be able to do this without those special tools, or?
You can try. It's easier with these. I haven't found anything that you can do it without them. But most of the time, instead of using a hand, you can get like a pad of foam and you can put it on to get it more of a wavy shape on the edges. When you're done with this, you could like set it in a bowl to like make it shape, or you can have it flat. Thank you. I'm gonna set it in the bowl so that it has like a sitting effect. And you can stack them. When you're doing this, you don't want to press too hard or you will rip the fondant, like that. And you set it on however you like it to create like the double flower effect. I'm gonna make some mold flowers and show how to airbrush. So with this, you just stick the fondant in.
So you can just remold your fondant as many times as you need to?
Yeah. Unless it's like sitting out for a long time, then you don't want to do that. So when you airbrush, you want to do it on something, not really a paper towel because it'll just soak through. So I have my food dye right here. And I'm going to go with a purple. So you do 1 to 2 drops in there. And you just test it, see if you like how thick it is. The more you pull back on the trigger, the more that comes out. So to clean it, you just do that. I'm going to add some yellow to clean it. And I'm just going to cover the edges to create a flower kind of like that. If you want it more vibrant, you add more. I'm going to add some pink to the purple one. And you can do that on cakes, and you can do it on pretty much anything that's edible. So I'm going to show it on a cake. It doesn't have to be on fondant. You can do it on buttercream as well. I'm going to do a darker blue color faded into a pink. So you can kind of make sure you get in the crevices. This thing on the back controls how much comes out at a time. It takes a couple minutes. It kind of depends on how much you add. Because if you add a whole bunch, then it takes... It does not take hours. It takes... The most I've ever had it take for me is about 20 minutes. And that's because I had to do layer after layer to get the color I wanted. For an airbrush, you can use any type of food dye you have. It just has to be a liquid food dye. You want to make sure that there are no open patches. For small details, you can close this up. And you can want to make sure that you're not getting too much to come out. And you can do lines and stuff. You can do outlines with it. If you want to get a lot more detail, I would suggest using a brush and some colors. You can use it on buttercream. So like, you have to make sure that your buttercream is dry so that the air doesn't misshape it. Yeah, clean it out every once in a while. Sometimes they send me pictures, sometimes they're like, go crazy, do what you want. Yeah, those are the best cakes, cause.
So as an artist, you get to be pretty creative.
Yeah. I'm gonna do some rosettes on the top of the cake. Or some stacks. When I first started, I was making like small cakes. They weren't the greatest decorating, but I've really improved over the years. I have pictures of my cakes that I can show at the end.
Is there one that you're like most proud of? Or
My tropical cake I made over the summer last year. Mostly the part-time job is in the summer, because during the school year I'm really busy with sports and stuff.
You work for the cake lady, right?
Yeah.
And so is that mostly cupcakes or is that a little bit of everything?
It's wedding cakes, graduation cakes, cupcakes, cake pops, pies. Yeah, pretty much everything.
You're getting paid to do the things that you really enjoy doing.
Well, I'm not paid yet. It's just an internship, but hopefully this year.
And gaining some valuable experience.
Yes. Yeah. So with this, you could add pretty much anything to the top. If you want to stick something into the cake, make sure it has like a toothpick or else it won't stick. Yeah. Any other questions?
You want to show us your slide?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, that'll work. Let's just do that. Zoom in on our iPad. Okay. Oh, that's fine. That'll work. So we'll just have you show it on his camera there.
Okay, so just like hold it up like this. So I made an under the sea cake. This was for my 14th birthday that I made with the cake lady. And I have the dates of every single time I made them. I make cookie cakes as well. So I made a rainbow chip cookie for someone wanted a JoJo Siwa themed cake. This one took about 4 hours to make.
Is that airbrush then?
No, that is all frosting.
Okay.
Oreo truffles, probably one of my favorites. I just crushed up Oreos, put it in some frosting, and covered it in chocolate. It's simple and it's really good. My favorite one is the tropical flamingo cake. I made this for my cousin's birthday last summer, and it had swirled frosting on the inside, and it has swirled frosting on the cupcakes. So there's green, blue, pink, and yellow, and then yellow and orange.
So start to finish, how long does something like that take?
7-ish hours.
Okay. The flowers on that are amazing.
I did not make those. I just bought those. I was short on time.
Are they real? Are they edible flowers?
No, it's fondant gum paste. Here is my Animal Crossing cake, which all the grass is hand piped. And I made the carrots, and the clouds and stuff like that. Yeah.
That was for like a kid's birthday?
Yeah. The Veterans Day cake, I made that for the school. I made 2 of them, but this one looked better. This one was a chocolate cake with cream cheese flavored buttercream. It was about 45 pounds.
It was delicious.
It was, yes, it was very good and it was very big. The other one was about 60 pounds.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
So for our Veterans Day celebration that we have, Dr. Amlin's reached out to Aleiya because we found out that she picked decorating, and the school actually hired her to produce those 2 cakes to serve to the veterans and the visitors that we had in our school.
This is one of the more recent cakes I've done. It was a Pokemon cake. It had stars piped in all over the cake. And on the inside, there was a hole cut in the cake where I filled it with sprinkles. And when you cut it open, it all spilled out. This was the cake that had the little fondant mishap on the top. And so I had to redo that. But I used, it's kind of like a smoother with tines cut in it. So you can make like the little indents in the cake.
So that's how you got the ridges in there?
Yeah. And the little fringe part, that's all one tip that decided not to work. So I kind of just used it to my ability. These are key lime mousse parfaits. So the green and white is the key lime mousse, and then it's got a sugar crust mixed with graham cracker, sugar cookie, Oreo crumbs, and then on top is a homemade whipped cream with toasted coconut. And I made those for a business who has barbecue pit boys, and they wanted me to come in and show them some stuff I've done. I've also made apple pie for them. My cupcakes, it's a carrot and applesauce cake with peanut butter cream cheese frosting, and these are for dogs, obviously. And I made them for a dog show. This was one of my other cousin's cakes. It's a double-decker cookie cake with just vanilla buttercream and a toy sea turtle on top. German chocolate cake. I made this for my teacher in 8th grade. It was kind of a bribe, not really. I was failing his class, so I made him a cake because he likes cake.
Cake doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So it's got a coconut pecan glaze, and it is covered in sprinkles. And that's it. I have some flowers that I've made for the cake competition in Pier, and some that TF made.
Or colored in.
Yeah, she made them too. So these are out of gum paste. These are the ones I practiced on. And then I made these here yesterday to give them some time to dry out and stuff. And then these are the ones TF made.
Make sure those are separate.
Yeah. And yeah.
So do you see this as something that that will be a lifelong, maybe not a career, but something that you will continue to dabble in and kind of hone your skills a little bit?
Definitely. Because I enjoy doing it. It gives me something to do when I'm bored. So,
You're just continually getting better and learning new things.
yeah.
Aleiya, do you have any formal training? Have you taken any classes?
No.
Or gone any camps or anything like that?
Nope, self-taught.
Practice, right? Do you guys have any questions? Yes, Hans?
Do you ever use age scrapers or anything like that?
I do. When I'm doing bigger cakes, I use something like this to just smooth out the sides. It's plastic, it's flexible, and it works well with cakes. It's a lot easier to use than a metal one because it's, like I said, it's flexible. Yeah.
Do you find that there's certain brands and things that work better for you, or do you just kind of, looks like you have a lot of different tools?
I do, and they're all mostly different brands. I use a lot of Wilton, and a lot of the stuff I got from Walmart when I first started, and it works really well.
You don't have to spend a lot of money.
No. Altogether, it's probably really expensive, but yeah.
Can you explain your airbrushing setup?
Yes. The airbrush is my favorite thing right now. I got it last week, and I have a little bit of experience with it. So basically, it's just a motor, and you put the food dye in here, and this is a trigger. It's got a needle, which is very sharp, very sharp. You can change the pressure of it by turning this thing. This is the hose that connects it. And then this is, you can put on this to get the water out because of the air pressure. There's lots of water.
put the food dye in it, is there actually water in the, do you put water in the food dye as well?
No, just a couple drops of food dye. It lasts pretty well.
Okay.
You have to fill it up sometimes.
So there's no water in it, the air just creates a, kind of liquefies it a little bit?
Yeah, and then to clean it, you take Airbrush Cleaner, which is also really good for getting food dye off tables and counters. And you just put it in there. You can do it over a sink, you can do it in a paper towel, but you cover this and you pull until it creates bubbles. And you kind of just spray until it's done. When you clean it, you want to make sure that you get pretty much everything out. It's okay if some of the stuff stays in there. I clean it every single time I use my gold or my silver because then it mixes with the colors because it's so light and transparent. Yeah. It's a very, very nice tool, especially when you're in a rush.
So all of the cakes that you showed us, you haven't had this tool yet, right?
No.
Okay. So if you foresee yourself marketing a lot more cakes and cupcakes with that then?
Yeah. I have a Facebook page where I go and sell my cakes and post about them. It's Lally Cake Sweets. That's my mom's decision to call it that. But yeah, I have more cakes on there. Just pretty much everything that I've made when I first started like 3 years ago to now. Yeah, I've improved definitely a lot. My first cake was kind of a leaning disaster.
I suspect you'll look back even 3 years from now and go and think that the work you did now isn't very good, even though it is.
Yeah.
So because your skills will just
Yeah.
Other questions?